Hi, this is Bill Wolf, and I'm really excited to introduce part 2 interview with Kyle Dougherty. Doc does a deep dive talking tech to tech level regarding our digital positioner offering. And then after that, he goes features and benefits on our Endress+Hauser SMT70 tablet. So if you're looking for a tablet right now to replace your 475, hold that PO and watch this video, because in my opinion, this Endress+Hauser SMT70 is the best tablet in the market. And then wrapping up, Doc tells a field story. It's really pretty cool. Enjoy. Thank you. So let's go just to a couple of other things. Obviously, Rexa, you have a passion for the Rexa, you got a passion for Mason Nealon, you got a passion for problem solving. I think the fact that you've got paper mill experience and digester gas application stuff you threw in there, which I didn't know about, is unique to our footprint. I know you have a passion about our positioner. Can you go there just to talk about it for a second? For instance, you and I did a presentation at a small food plant last year, and then our follow-up visit with them was we literally walked through the plant in about 2 hours. And at the end of the day, we had one positioner and 3 brackets for this neat little food account. Can you go there with the SVI-II AP, because you're a tech, so when you speak, holds a lot more weight than a sales guy, right? So go.
Yeah, no problem. So Mason on SVI-II AP, I actually happen to have one right here. So just to highlight the positioner a little bit, and not because we're a Mason rep. Again, I was a technician for my first 12 years here at Eastern Controls, and I've worked on it from a service standpoint. I've worked on everybody's positioner, whether it's the Fisher positioner, the Valtech positioner, the Siemens positioners, the ABB positioners. The SVI-II AP by far is the simplest and easiest to commission digital positioner out on the market. And that's not just me giving a sales pitch. That's me, it's field proven. I've installed thousands of these things, throughout my career. What makes it really neat? It's Class 1 Div 1 explosion proof out of the box. Okay, it's NEMA 4X. It's a positive pressure unit, which means that it's always pushing air out, so you can't get any bugs, dirt, or water egress in. It has a 32-bit microprocessor, but the real big differentiator is the display. The display on the front. When it's in normal mode, it's actually flashing between pressure, position, and signal. So right away, from a troubleshooting standpoint or an operator standpoint, it's a really good indicator. And what I mean by that is if the control room is, telling an operator this valve is not moving, I have it at, 12 milliamps, can you go out and check it out? Instead of the operator or the INC tech happening to bring out a milliamp or a multimeter and going into the cabinet or the positioner, that takes a couple minutes. And if it's a classified area, it's going to take a little longer, because now you got to either declassify or pull some permits in order to get into the wiring, right? We could simply walk right up to the positioner, look at the display, and see what milliamp signal is coming in. So if the control room happens to say that, it's 12 milliamps, and you look at the display on the positioner, it's saying 4, you could tell the control room you have an interlocker permissive that's not causing this valve to open up, right? So it's a real quick troubleshooting tool. So I recommend it to all customers that we're looking at either upgrades or doing something different in the plant. Buy the SVI-II with the display. You can get it without, but it's definitely a value add to have it on there, just from a pure indication and troubleshooting standpoint.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, it has a 32-bit microprocessor. It has a built-in memory, 5 pressure sensors, so you could get a lot of diagnostics off of it. It's always counting travels, cycles, time near close, time near open. So it's always taking information in, and that's really good for troubleshooting down the road, especially if you're having control valve issues in the field and you're kind of wondering why that your seat's washing out or your plug's washing out. You could just look at the data log on the positioner and understand it's just operating too close to the seat all the time. it just may be oversized. You know, it may have been a valve that was sized 20 years ago, and that application, the values of that application, you know, aren't the same. They've changed over the years.
So, Doc, thanks for sharing the SVI-II AP with us and giving us a quick overview there. You just gave me an idea. Again, I talked about us kind of having a conversation, and I know I just spoke to one of my customers, and we were walking through the applications in his plant.
Okay.
And he said, hey, here's a couple trouble actors, right? So if folks watching this say, man, you know, would these guys be willing to walk through our plant with us and to identify and help us identify some solutions to some problem actors? Is that something you've done in the past with customers, Doc?
Absolutely. You know, my first and foremost, that's what we're there to do. Is we're out there to help the customer identify issues. You know, whether it's a solution that we could provide, or at least we can help steer the customer towards the right direction. We're there to help identify the problem. You know, and that has been our motive from a service standpoint as well. You know, we'd love to keep taking in them repeat offender valves and rebuilding them and giving them back to you and taking them back every year and just keep, you know, remove, replace, repeat.
Yeah.
But we want to identify what's going on. Why is that valve, you know, deteriorating over you know, a calendar year? We want to understand what's causing that application to not allow that valve to operate for, you know, years to come. And once we do that, we present that to the customer and we look for a solution. Because if you have the right valve in the right application, you should get some longevity out of that valve. There are some applications out there that are, you know, that are really problematic, but there are really good engineered products out there that can counter them problematic applications.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know in speaking with my customers, a lot of times it's a balance for them. Okay, we got a problem actor valve, let's say, and every year, every 2 years, we'll just pop 15, 20, 25 grand in because it's a replacement trim.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we're living with that issue, but it's like, wait a second, we could come up with a solution that maybe is X plus 2 or X plus 1, and your payout is within a year or two, and now you've got a valve with the longevity of it's going to be for 10, 15, 20 years. You know, i.e. the Lincoln log design, for instance, that we get involved with Mason Nealon, right? So boiler feed water applications and things like that, right? And power plant.
Yeah, recirculation, temperation, anywhere there's high liquid letdown applications, that is a very bulletproof valve for that application.
Yeah. So Doc, moving away from valves for just a quick second, or moving to the next thing. The last thing I want to cover with you from a passion standpoint and what you're involved with from a product standpoint you're excited about, the Endress+Hauser SMT70. It's a tablet-based configurator. The Hart 475s are being phased out. Tablets are being phased in. We have a major competitor in that space. We're competing against them, and I've been with you. Can you just talk real briefly about the SMT70 and what that brings to the table for a potential customer?
Yeah, no problem. So this is the tablet that you're speaking of, the
Yeah.
SMT70. So yeah, just real quick, a little background on handhelds and communicators. Anytime that you're trying to talk to a field device that has communication capabilities, whether that's Hart, Foundation, Field Bus, Modbus, Profibus, Ethernet IP, you need some type of communicator, whether that's a software in a laptop or whether that's a handheld device. And traditionally, manufacturers made handheld devices, and you know, the most notable one would be Emerson. You know, started off with the 275, 375, the 475, and that moved into the Trex. Mariam makes a 5150. Druck makes a DPI 620. So there's a lot of handhelds out there, and handheld's great. It allows you to put configuration information into the device. It allows you to pull information from the device. But what Endress+Hauser did when they created this tablet is they took the efficiencies and inefficiencies of a handheld and said, how can we make the tech's life a lot easier in the field? Okay, so they figured they come up with this tablet. It's an 11-inch tablet. It's private labeled. It's a DuraBook tablet. They have both general purpose and C1D1 and C1D2 area classification tablets. What's really neat about their system is it runs on a Windows 10 platform. Okay, it's the only field communicator out there that has a latest and greatest Windows 10 platform. On top of that, it will communicate with HART, Foundation Field Bus, Profibus DPPA, Modbus, and Ethernet IP out of the box. Comes preloaded with over 3,000 DTMs, device type managers, which traditional handhelds typically use the DDs, the device descriptors. The biggest difference between the two is the DDs are more text-based. The DTMs are a little bit more graphical, a little more visual, and the aesthetics are a little better. What's really neat about the tablet is that it has front and rear facing camera. It is 4G LTE and Bluetooth capable, Wi-Fi capable as well. Again, it runs on a Windows 10 platform. It's an i5 Intel, 8 gigabytes worth of RAM, 256 solid state drive. So it's a decent computer out of the box. It does have a barcode scanner. So what they did was they kind of put a Swiss Army knife together for a field communicator and said to the technician, this is how you're going to be more efficient. If I go out into the field and I'm not sure how to hook up to that device or what menu tree it looks like when I'm hooked up to the device, I could simply open up the internet, the Explorer or Chrome, and pull up the manual. Okay. I can also run proprietary software in parallel with the software that's already on the tablet for configuring drives and stuff in the field. So it's a very universal tool that you can either link right to a plant asset management system, or this has full Microsoft Office. So you could do PowerPoint, Word, Excel, Outlook. So you can, I actually use mine as an everyday laptop.
Yeah, you live with it. Yeah, you live with it every day.
So,
Yeah.
I use it for everything. I have a bunch of different software, valve sizing programs, but it's also a communicator. I could walk right up to a device and talk to it right in the field. So it's a very versatile tool. They thought it well through, and the whole concept is to make that technician a lot more efficient in the field. So he could go out, take care of that asset, capture that asset, and come back from the field instead of going out and then coming back to the shop to download or print out a manual, to go back out, to maybe carry a camera with them, to maybe carry another laptop with them. This kind of all-in-one Swiss Army knife is the easiest way to explain it.
Hey, you know what? I think I'll step in as a sales guy right now and just say, hey, if you're watching this podcast and you want to see a demo, reach out to Eastern Controls, and I think the best way to do is get Doc in front of you and let you play. So, Doc, thanks for bringing that to us too. And so, wrapping things up, concluding our podcast today, I just got to ask you. I mean, I know you've been out there, man. Like, give me like a 1-minute story real quick on like a field story or something that you've had in your life that was kind of interesting for folks saying, bring on a field story. Go.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So the one I'm going to share is is a troubleshooting story, because that's kind of like what I love to do. And it actually has to pertain to something we haven't talked about during the podcast, which is our valve scope diagnostic capabilities, which is essentially it's offline diagnostics. It's a suitcase that we hook up with some software, and we're able to kind of get the overall health of the control valve. We had a combined cycle plant early on when we first got into the offline diagnostics, and they were having issues with a cold reheat valve out in the field. Big butterfly valve, 36 inches, up in a finger rack in a bad location, big Scotch yoke actuator, double acting positioner, trip valve. It had all the bells and whistles. Every time they went to stroke the valve, it was acting up and it was locking up on them. They were going to pull it out and get it repaired and put it back in, and the cost of that was probably in the upwards of the $100,000 to $200,000 when you factor in location, cranes, trying to get that valve out of the finger rack, down on the ground, delivered to, whatever outfit was going to repair it, bringing it back, getting it reinstalled. So it would have been a very, very expensive rebuild. What they did was they allowed us. They weren't quite bought into the whole offline diagnostics concept, but they allowed us to come in and hook up and kind of see what was going on. What I found after running the diagnostics was our standard test didn't show anything abnormal. Everything looked good. It was tracking well. But when I went to give it larger command signals, which means maybe 15, 20% increases in position, what would happen is the valve would lock up. So what we found was the transfer valve was set too close to the supply pressure of the valve itself. And on big actuators, you have a draw, right? So your PSI is going to decrease when the actuator is asked to go to a larger position because it's going to consume more air. So what was happening was the air was dropping below the set point of the trip valve, and the trip valve was trying to transfer over to the accumulator, which was causing the valve to just stop. Okay, it was trying to go into a trip scenario. So what we simply did was we increased the supply pressure of the actuator and lowered the set point of the trip valve. So when it did call for larger set point changes, that it wouldn't drop below the set point of the trip. So it's as simple as setting two accessories to the right set point, and it took all the problems away.
Nice.
So it was a matter of about 40 minutes worth of troubleshooting with some offline diagnostic capability, and we probably saved them anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 on a valve that didn't need to be repaired. Nothing was wrong with the valve. It was a matter of the accessories being set correctly.
There you go, man. I think that's a great story because you literally, like I said, at the end of the day, you saved that plant six-figure numbers.
Yep.
By just doing something and understanding how to troubleshoot and how to problem solve for them, basically on the fly, I guess, right? I mean,
Yep.
literally we're just doing it. So, Doc, thanks so much for sharing that story. Thanks for coming on to my podcast. Thank you again. And this is Kyle Dock. He's our valve automation specialist. Reach out to us at Easter Controls. Be glad to solve problems with you and for you. All right, man.
Talk to you soon.
All right, bud.